The cafeteria was buzzing with the usual Friday noise, laughter, chatter, and the clatter of trays. But when Sarah Mitchell walked in, the sound seemed to shift. She was the quiet girl from the edge of town, the one who lived on a farm that most kids thought was too old-fashioned, too forgotten. She dressed simply, kept her head down, and rarely spoke unless spoken to. To the bullies of Ridgefield High, she was the perfect target. "Hey, farm girl," a voice sneered from across the room. Jason Miller, the self-proclaimed king of the school, leaned back in his chair with a smirk. His friends chuckled as they eyed Sarah, who carried her lunch tray carefully, trying to avoid their gaze. "How's the cow milking business? You got dirt under your nails today, or did you finally wash them?" The group erupted in laughter. Sarah's cheeks flushed, but she said nothing. She walked past them, set her tray down at a small corner table, and began to eat in silence. Most kids assumed she was weak, too timid to fight back. But what they didn't know was that beneath her quiet demeanor, Sarah carried scars and strength that none of them could even imagine. Sarah Mitchell wasn't just a farm girl. She was a Marine sniper. At 17, she looked like any other high school senior, but her story was far from ordinary. She had enlisted in the Marines the moment she was legally able, and after completing an accelerated program, she had served tours overseas in some of the most dangerous conflict zones. She had been honorably discharged after an injury and returned home, trying to blend back into a normal life. But blending in was harder than it looked. She kept her past hidden because she wanted peace, not attention. Still, the bullies at school couldn't resist tormenting her for her quiet ways. They saw silence as weakness, not realizing it was discipline. They saw humility as fear, not understanding it was control. That day in the cafeteria, Jason and his crew didn't stop at words. On their way out, Jason, accidentally, bumped Sarah's tray off the table, sending food spilling across her lap. The room went silent, waiting for her reaction. Sarah simply stood, grabbed a napkin, and began cleaning without complaint. Jason grinned proudly, mistaking her calm for defeat. But Sarah was far from defeated. Later that week, things escalated. Jason and his friends cornered Sarah by the lockers after school. "What's the matter, farm girl?" Too scared to fight back, Jason taunted, shoving her shoulder. His friends surrounded her, laughter echoing down the empty hall. Sarah's eyes narrowed for the first time. Not in anger, but in decision. She knew she couldn't keep letting this go. Not for her sake, but for the others who suffered in silence. "Jason," she said evenly, her voice calm but steady. "You think strength is about how loud you are. But real strength isn't about showing off, it's about what you can control." Her words confused him, but before he could respond, Jason lunged, shoving her harder. Sarah moved with precision. With one swift motion, she sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and twisted it behind his back. Jason yelped in shock and pain as his knees buckled. She didn't hurt him badly, just enough to make a point. His friends froze, too stunned to intervene. "Enough," Sarah said firmly. "You've had your fun. It ends now." The hall was silent, except for Jason's strained breathing. She released him, and he stumbled back, clutching his arm with wide eyes. He had never been overpowered like that, especially not by someone he underestimated so deeply. Word spread quickly through the school. Everyone wanted to know how Sarah, the quiet farm girl, had managed to take down Jason Miller so effortlessly. Rumors flew until finally, one of the teachers who knew her background stepped in and told the truth. Sarah had served as a Marine sniper. She wasn't just some quiet farm kid. She was a decorated veteran who had chosen to live a humble life after seeing the worst of humanity. The revelation changed everything. The bullies who once mocked her now kept their distance, not out of fear, but out of respect. For the first time, people saw Sarah for who she truly was: resilient, disciplined, and incredibly strong. But Sarah didn't gloat. She never used her past to intimidate anyone. Instead, she used her experience to help. When she saw younger kids being picked on, she stepped in, not with violence but with guidance. She spoke softly but firmly, teaching them that true strength wasn't about fists or insults, but about patience, courage, and knowing when to act. Jason himself struggled the most. His pride had been shattered, but Sarah didn't leave him broken. One afternoon, she found him sitting alone on the bleachers, avoiding everyone's eyes. "You're not as tough as you think you are," Sarah said gently, sitting beside him. "But that doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you've been measuring strength the wrong way." Jason didn't respond at first, but her words sank in. Over time, he began to change, not overnight, but slowly, learning that respect mattered more than fear. By the end of the school year, Sarah had become something she never expected, an example. Not just to the bullied, but to the bullies too. Her story reminded everyone that you never know what battles someone has already fought. And while she still returned home each evening to tend the fields, feed the animals, and live the quiet life she cherished, Sarah Mitchell's presence lingered in the hallways of Ridgefield High. A reminder that silence does not equal weakness, and kindness does not mean surrender, because sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest lessons. They thought she was just a quiet farm girl. They laughed at her boots, mocked her silence, and shoved her around because she never fought back. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't even imagine, was that this girl had once stared through a sniper's scope in the middle of a war zone, and never missed. When the truth finally came out, the entire school, and the bullies who tormented her, would never be the same again. The cafeteria at Ridgefield High was always loud, but today the laughter seemed sharper, cutting through the air like knives. Sarah Mitchell walked in, balancing her tray of food. She wore her usual faded jeans and flannel shirt, the kind that carried the faint smell of hay and fresh air. Jason Miller spotted her immediately. Captain of the football team, leader of the bullies, and someone who loved to humiliate easy targets. He smirked at his friends. "Look, it's Little House on the Prairie," he sneered. "Careful, don't track mud on the floor, farm girl." His buddies roared with laughter. Sarah kept her eyes down, heading toward her quiet corner table. But Jason wasn't done. As she passed, he reached out and nudged her tray just enough to spill milk across her lap. The cafeteria went silent. Everyone waited for Sarah's reaction, but she just grabbed some napkins, calmly cleaning up without a word. Jason grinned, thinking he had won again. What he didn't realize was that Sarah wasn't weak. She was restrained. The kind of restraint that only comes from someone who's seen real battles and knows what true strength is.